This is not another episode of Feed the Trolls. If you watch a lot of competitive Counter-Strike, if you follow all the news cycles and you listen to all the different podcasts and stuff, you'll know that 2025 has been pretty rough for a lot of people, a lot of teams, a lot of players, and a lot of talent as well, broadcast talent, including myself. It's no secret, mainly because I did an interview with HLTV. I got stuck in one of these situations where I did some work for a TO and I didn't get paid, and they then apparently declared bankruptcy. I say apparently because we're still waiting for the information of where we send our invoices. I was one of those, but I know I'm not alone. I know that there's been a lot of wheeling and dealing in the scene, and for a lot of us who maybe aren't at like the top broadcast talent, it's been rough. Like opportunities have been slightly less. I'm so grateful to PGL who keep giving me opportunities, or who have given me opportunities this year, and obviously I've had a few others as well from the likes of EFG, which always grateful to do the work. But I think the biggest thing for me has been being able to do this podcast and other podcasts. I've started a few others and I'm still continuing some, but Feed the Trolls really like ignited. I don't think it ignited a passion that was there to be able to just make cool content and connect with other fans of Counter-Strike. That for me is the biggest thing. Like, I love the fact that I get to hear your opinions in the comments and I can comment on them and all of that. It means a lot. So yeah, I suppose I do these best of 10 episodes, and I've done them 5 times now. This is the 5th one because we are on the 50th freaking episode, which is just mind-blowing. And basically what the best of 10s are is I just recap all my favorite moments from 10 episodes that we've done so far, and you get to watch all of that. And that's what we're doing today. But I think it's also just a moment for me to remember that we're building something really cool. And I think sometimes you get caught up in the numbers. You see other podcasts and they just get so many more views, and you wonder maybe what you can do or what you can't do. I just want to take a moment to be like, I think it's pretty rad what we've built here, and I'm proud of it, and I love doing this, and I will keep doing it whether we get 100 views or 10,000 views. I don't know if Thorin will, but I will. So thank you. I'm hoping for bigger things for Feed the Trolls, and I have some cool ideas in my head. So hopefully we can keep that going. Anyway, this is just say thank you to you for coming here, commenting, and making this work. I'm so awkward when I'm just talking by myself. Thank you. That's it. I feel weird now. We're going to stop. Shout out to Skin Club. They've been doing some work with me on another show called Sell Me This Pro, where we do some pre-rolls, and I put a link in the bio to this video. If you're looking for some CS skins, go check it out. You can hear from Skin Club. Just before we get into the best of 10, here are the 10 best moments from episode 40 to episode 49 or 50. I don't know. I can't do maths. Take a watch and let me know in the comments which one was your favorite.
The spirit of victory. The desire to be first. The challenge to be the best. We keep an eye on their victories, worry when something goes wrong, and rejoice even more when we see success. Whether it's a game at a major championship, a new vlog, a stream, or a simple social media post, all of these immerse us in the world of CS. We are among their thousands of fans. We are Skin Club.
So you take an IGL where there has clearly been some sort of personality clash that has happened, and you put him into the team that has just had the giant personality clash, the very public personality clash, where it has been publicly spewed out by an ex-coach and has been alluded to by the ex-IGL that there are all these personalities in this team and it's really difficult to get stuff done, and that you can't really lead the team because one of the players has the final say in everything, and there's all of this, and now you take a grenade and you throw it in there.
Yeah,
How is this going to work? So my question is, do we still believe that Siuhy can save Liquid?
By the way, there's a quote. I almost laughed myself. I was waking up, so not to sleep, almost onto my PC chair. When I woke up and I saw that HLTV interview, the headline, right? You're all going to read it differently to me, apparently, because everyone else thought this was good. The headline goes, Siuhy, from the moment I joined, Twists made it clear to me I'm taking over. Like, I read that as, it's Twist's team, and he's the boss, and so he's just said, no, you're actually, I'll let you be the boss for now.
Give him permission.
Yeah. Oh, even the way you've said that is crazy. It's not like that. By the way, here's the headline I want to see. Twists, from the moment he got here, Siuhy told me, this is my team now. Notice how different that headline is. It sounds the same. It's very different, I'll tell you. So I will say that is a massive concern. By the way, as I alluded to in the intro, obviously that was the spice. It wasn't even just that Zeus revealed there was all beef between Cadian and Twists. He implied, like, let's say, like, people within Twist's circle were getting involved and interfering or having their own opinions about stuff. So I will say that's another thing for Twist, which is this. Mate, you better get back in that HLTV top 20. Because if you do, I can tell you how egos work. I got a big one myself. When I was on top and I was king shit, yeah, of course, at that point in time, I can tell you, get these fucking cold fries out of here. I need quality food when I'm going to do my... You can do that and be a diva, but you got to earn it. If you're not living up to it, that does not work. So I do think if you Twists, you can still do this thing, by the way, where he's the agile, but you're the captain. That can be fine. But you better be amazing now at CS again. You can't do it. I mean, he was never as bad as Yekindar, but you can't do what Yekindar did after he became drop being agile and just be like a low fragger. So I do think that, put it this way, I won't say it can't work.
Why do you think people like to meme on Falcons so much? Because let's be honest, even the roster last year, they hadn't even really played much. They'd had an okay run at Katowice and people were already hating on them. Is it just because we don't want to see good players make money?
I think it's just, like Lauren said, it's a lot of carryover from last year, honestly, because the number of people who were hating them, especially after the whole Boris incident, where that just changed the narrative super early into being like, oh, like everybody hates Falcons. There's already the people who didn't like the team because of the Saudi backing. And then once you had that Boris incident happen, you had all these conflicting stories. People just loved piling on and piling on and piling on. And obviously their results didn't get better throughout last year. So then it just became a fun, trendy thing to hate Falcons. And then, you know, like how the community gets is once they have like something that they're enjoying hating on, it's very hard to get them to stop until you start winning everything, basically. And then they're like, oh, suddenly I really like this team because they're winning. But it really is just that carryover, because when you come into this year and it's a completely different team, you have the heroic core of last year that was actually doing pretty well. We all
to that team. They're all,
exactly.
Wasn't that everyone's second favourite team? Like when your team gets knocked out, I loved that team. It was baller, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they're making the major playoffs. People are cheering them on. It's just like, it's the strange narrative shift when you come into this year. It's not like these players join the org just to make money. Obviously, it's a great deal for them, but they're not joining it to not actually try and play the game. They have a young in-game leader. They actually have talent. They're clearly putting in the effort, but because it's so much carryover baggage, people just want to keep piling on. And it's the same thing with like the Zonic thing, is that obviously last year there was fair criticism because he kept coming out and doing these interviews where he's like, I didn't have the team I wanted the whole time. It's like, okay, but like do what you can with this one, I guess. Don't at least, pile on while it's all happening. But then this year, they're kind of taking that narrative and continuing despite all of the players saying Zonic's doing so much work. He's clearly putting an effort to build this roster the way he tried to last year, but just couldn't get done. Now he has Niko. Now he has m0NESY. If people are just going to keep like piling on just based on that and not actually look at what he's done this year so far, their results this year haven't been bad at all. Like most of the time they're losing to like MOUZ. They lost to Eternal Fire early, but a lot of these runs, they've actually made pretty decent finishes despite still basically trying to integrate Niko since the start of the year, starting this roster a little not from scratch, but like trying to build up their whole playbook with Niko and change up their whole CT playbook.
I did appreciate, by the way, I think Maui had the greatest corp I've ever heard from someone, just like the last grasps on the edge of the fingers on the edge of the cliff of holding on to the hating on Falcons, was he actually said the line to me. True, it was in the spur of the moment. He probably didn't think it through. He basically was like, look, if you just ignore those PGLs, their results are all terrible. It's like, what? By that logic, if you just ignore all your money, you broke, you bitch. What are you talking about? Like, I think that's like, in a way, I know what he meant, but that's such a bad way to see it.
I always try to do this thing in my head before we do the show where I have a timeline. So I'm like, we'll start with this question, then I can funnel them down here and we can get to the main topic. And I keep looking at this with the new AWPer from Kazakhstan that everyone was shocked by. Fallen is now going to be a rifling IGL. And then Yekindar comes in and I was like, where the hell do I even start? So what I'll do is I'll introduce
That's probably what they were
Moses.
saying when they made their roster.
Moses joined us and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw this at you. What the hell is happening at Furia, Moses?
I think it's awesome. I was just starting to get bored of the Counter-Strike scene. Like there wasn't enough things going on, and this pops up to save the day. It's great. I don't know. I think it's fun though. I think it's interesting. I think this is. I don't really like any of the moves, but I'm really kind of curious to see what happens with them. I think really, if you want to boil it down to at the end of the day, what I feel like these moves are is this is clearly to me an act of desperation. I think they feel locked in terms of not being able to go get any of the younger Brazilian talent. I don't even know if that's been a goal of theirs. But I feel like they don't really have any great choices on where to go because they've made so many moves to bring in ostensibly the most talented player at that point in time, the most talented player for the role that they need, the most talented player in terms of potential, who they've now dropped in Skulls. So they've taken this in a couple different routes, and I feel like they feel locked in and like they don't really have any great answers and great ideas of what to do to get better from here. Because it's clear this project is stuck in the mud. So I don't know. It's just crazy.
Is this like a situation of we'll just throw a bunch of shit at a wall, Lauren, and hope that something here sticks?
Notoriously, shit doesn't stick on walls.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
The problem is the implication here, like Moses actually alluded to, but he didn't directly say it, is there's a thing I've said, I've referenced it on social media many times, which is over the years, when I've tried to doing the thing, which luckily is one thing you get the luxury of doing if you're known in the scene, which is you try to actually just make the moves you want to happen behind the scenes. So you do stuff like spoiler, I'll just say, I do that shit where I'll just like, when Payne got good like a year ago, I just messaged Big Azera, like, why are you still on this team, mate? Surely this team's offering you squads. Like, why don't you go and play for the, you know, of course I do, mate. That's who I am, Moses. This is who I am. Like, also, by the way, understand that, guys. If you're one of those teams like Saw when they have one good run ever, I'm not the guy like, I hope this whole team can make it. I message the one good player, like, get out of there, bro. This is your chance. They're all bloody losers. Like,
and one of the things that makes it very difficult is if you look at like Astralis. This is like completely off the top of my head. I haven't looked at this since probably I put out that tweet you mentioned a while ago. I think they made like 12 million of revenue, 15 million of revenue in 23. This was like before they sold the LEC slot. Right. So like assume like probably half of that roughly, or a third of that went away with that. I think it was mostly Counter-Strike. And so like the remaining business had like maybe 8 million a year, something like that of revenue, roughly break even. I think something like that was the math at the time off the top of my head. Now like there's this, for people who actually want to see what financials for a team look like, for like a well-run team, there's an HBS Harvard Business School case about Team Liquid, where you can go on like the Harvard like Business Review website or whatever, and I think it costs like $15. And like that actually, like it's like a case of, you know, like their growth talks about like some of the decisions they made. Like I didn't think it was like particularly insightful in many of that, but they actually have financials. You can actually see their financials in like decent level of detail, and it like these look similar to like team financials that I've seen many times over. So it's not that surprising to me. I think it would be very helpful for a lot of people who talk about it and don't really have a sense of it. So like I would consider doing that just for like to understanding it better. But the one thing that I wanted to call out is the difference in size between somebody like Liquid and these other teams. Like they're not even like competing in the same sport. Like Liquid, and there's probably a couple of other ones that are at like a similar level, just in terms of scale. I'm
guessing, you know,
like they're just so much bigger than everybody else that like I honestly have no idea how the small teams, like say like Ents, for example, I just don't know how you can be competitive. And like we used to, so like Immortals exited the LCS at the end of last year. We're one of the teams that were happy to just get out. Like we did not think that like the model that Immortals was running like could work. Like you had to be one of the big ones. You had to spend a bunch of money, and like we were not believers in that, obviously. Like what the joke that we used to say every once in a while is like, yeah, like we get it. Like we understand that like Cloud9 and Team Liquid would want to pay more revenue share for Cloud9 and Team Liquid because they are the most valuable teams. Like there's no question. Like they brought way more value to the LCS than Immortals did, or like many of the other teams did. But like if you don't pay some amount of money for the other teams, like you have nobody to play against. Like you can't have a 2-person League of Legends league where it's just Team Liquid and Cloud9 playing every week because they were the ones who just did the best job. And like, you know, it's like a hard problem to solve because in theory, like, yeah, I agree. Like they should get paid more. Like they've done the best job. They built the best business. Like they have figured out a way to monetize it. Like pay them more because they bring more of the value. But you look at what Team Liquid does. Like I think it was like around 60 million a year in 22-23. Like there's a lot of these smaller teams that are like game specific. Like I would guess that most of the Counter-Strike teams that are not part of these like big organizations with like League of Legends or Valorant, I would guess most of them do low single digit millions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So like now just so, you know, like one way to think about like the scale difference is like if you're running a business that does 60 million and you're roughly break even, that implies that your cost base is 60 million. So like the amount of cash that you have sitting around just for like fluctuations month to month on like when payments come in, go out, whatever, is somewhat scaled to the 60 million if you're running the business in a smart way. Like you're not, like if you have a $10 billion business, you probably need more cash day to day than you do if it's one person lemonade stand. But then you compare that to, let's even take Astralis, like that was 8 million a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's up or down. Like that probably included stickers, so that portion is probably down. But say like 8 million, like that is like almost a tenth of the size.
Back to the Spirit conversation. I mean, is the fix changing a player in an ideal world?
Remember, he used to be a Reddit moderator, and I'm a shithead who wasn't a pro, so we're always going to say yes to that.
Like one day.
Doesn't matter. You will never live that down. That scarlet letter will be stitched upon your outfit for the rest of your days. As far as I'm concerned, secretly, you were the one who deleted all my shit off Reddit. You weren't, but you know what? You're the face I've put on Reddit moderators, so you just are, okay?
It was like, I got in there, and it was like a race to delete the most shit. That was like how it works there, and I was like, I'm here to like remove bad comments.
Sure.
Whatever.
But anyway, the bigger point is, unfortunately, I do think unless you are someone who is in a top pro team, top pros tend to go with the opposite approach. Like, no, we can still fix things or role change or change them out. I think if you're outside of teams, because we don't know the weird intangibles, I think usually the move is a roster move. The bigger question to me is this one. This is why actually the Spirit one's an interesting one. I think the reason why it probably is a roster move is because, look, as you saw with Vu's framing, you can argue who they should replace, but the difference is it does feel like one piece, because they've already got Don Kashio, would put them to the top. Normally, when teams have actual fundamental problems, I usually think you need a couple of changes. You need like a role change and a swap, or two people go in and out like you had in Liquid. So I think for this one, I think it's one roster move. As he said, though, the which one it is the fucking $1 million question. I feel like you can go, essentially, there's only two players off limits. I'm with you, mate. There's only two off limits.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, I rate Magic's higher than most people because when I look at Magic's play, he's actually a pretty competent CT side anchor. That's not that easy.
He's quite an intelligent player, mate. Yeah, he clearly knows what he's doing.
And he gets the short end of the stick to a degree that almost nobody ever does. It's like...
He unironically mains an SMG, mate. That's real.
Yeah,
like, that's not even a joke.
So but then statistically, he also is just really way worse than Zontix. So it's hard to justify, but at the same time, like Zontix, the biggest problem I think Spirit has, other than the fact that Chopper just can't frag right now, but the biggest problem they've had is that they have one really good aggressive player in Donk, and then their second aggressive player is Magix, who's just really inconsistent. So it's if Donk's having a bad game, then your two best players are these passive lurker-style players. And it's like, well, if Donk isn't creating space, you're just going to suck. You're not going to be able to do anything.
I'm going to read from the TPA, the Tournament Participation Agreement, which is the document that all teams have to sign to participate in the major. We sign them for pretty much every single event. And it does literally on every single page say strictly private and confidential. But I'm going to read it anyway, because I think this is a matter of public interest. And I also think that I also think that Blast and all tournament organizers had to publicly have the same documentation available to all teams, and they had to. The whole point of this open circuit is that everything has to be open, right? So I think this document is essentially should be a matter of public record for all teams, and so I don't have a concern with reading this.
By the way, almost every tournament, in my opinion, should have the rule book put publicly because of the fact that, like, by the way, it's notorious tournament organisers. If it's not public, will change things retroactively, like update the document, do all sorts of naughty things in these
the rule book
particular
is public,
cases.
but the participation agreement is not public. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be public, because again, like if all the revenue things have to be public, I think this is fine. So,
And by the way, in this case, if it had helped Blast, it would be a thing they could point to. We say, "No, look at this agreement that we all have, and you all knew about." That would help.
Exactly. So there's one line that has deadline, and it does relate to visas, which is quite useful. It's the only deadline in the entire document. So it's under a section called Team Obligations, which says the team hereby warrants and represents that it shall, and then B, responsible for ensuring all information requested regarding necessary visa applications or similar country entrance consent is presented to relevant teams by the requested deadline. So there's the first deadline. Any deadlines not met or requested information that is missing may result in the team being unable to continue in the tournament. In this instance of the occurrence, Blast shall not be liable for any discontinued teams. Blast shall not be liable if the team does not meet the required applications or similar country entrance rules and is therefore denied a visa or entrance to the country.
what happens if Falcons wins the major, then they go on a mad run and then they win the Budapest major? Because then no matter what you say, for the rest of time, everyone will talk about how they're on an era and they're one of the best teams of all time.
Yeah.
And the whole of the Falcons organization will be lauded as phenomenal, and no one will remember the shit show that happened last year.
No, Kassad will just be that guy going, but the last 18 months, and then they'll be like, all the parade will be coming through. Get out the fucking way.
Yeah,
The major of the era.
Yeah, I would say congratulations, $1 billion later. Yeah, give me a fucking
Right.
$1 billion. I'll win you a fucking.
You guys think he's joking for the show. He actually is so bitter that when someone wins back-to-back majors with one of his actual personal friends getting to win the World Championship twice and establishes an era, he would be so fucking salty. He would still go, congratulations for winning with $1 billion. You're the biggest hater. You are the biggest hater of all time, Kassad.
Duncan, it's like
You're a generational hater. You're the donk of haters.
cheating. It's like cheating, right?
How is it
Can you compare them
cheating?
to Navi? How can you compare them to Navi, who did what they did?
I
with
just
the
meant that
fucking
Navi
shit
was really
lineup?
good last year, but we don't talk about that now, do we? We just talk about how bad they are now.
It's a fucking disgrace that you put them in the same bracket.
I wanted to pile up like every map that Falcons, and not even Falcons, that Niko and Muncie have lost in the last like
there you
major
go.
cycles, right? So every
Go for
single
it.
map. So I did it all, and actually, it's not a good look for me because it's going to look like I'm defending my boy again. In the
Okay.
12 maps that they've lost, that eliminated them from, I think it's all the way back to Antwerp with Alexi B. So it's Antwerp, the
first
Rio
one, yeah.
RMR, Paris, Shanghai, Copenhagen, and now Austin as well. Niko has a 0.88 rating and 0.6 KPR. And Muncie is 108, so still not great, 0.69 KPR. So it's this thing of, you know, we saw the Maui hot take of Niko being the biggest choker of all time. And I think Muncie, what that ignores is why are they in those elimination games? And I think Municie's had bad moments to get them into them. But I think in the elimination games themselves, I think there is something about Niko at majors. There just has to be. Like, you don't have a player that good on a 0.88 rating over 6 consecutive elimination series.
Yeah.
Like, there's something going on there.
No,
in
it's
that last
incredibly
map, for sure.
conspicuous, especially because this guy in any other tournament drop him in. That doesn't happen.
Do we see the Mongolz in a grand final of one of the big S-tier tournaments in the second half of the year?
I'm going to be a hater and say no. Like I say, I
I
actually
knew
think
you
some of
were.
the other teams will get better players and be better. Also, the thing is, I don't even need them to make the final. Again, they only got to this final because they're going to play pain gaming. I actually genuinely, if I could have a wish, look, aside from all the other things I'd wish in the world and things I'd change about the game, I just wish the Mongolz had played someone else on the route to the final. I also think a lot of what we're trying to grade them against here is the game against Vitality. And that's why I tried to make it that, like, Vitality played kind of bad and still won that game. I don't expect you to beat Vitality. I don't think that's even, like, necessarily my expectation for anyone. So right now, I just want to see you try and get to number 2 and number 3 first.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the run, I think once we start seeing that teams are, based on the seeding going into the playoffs, if they have to play against a Vitality, a Mouse, a Spirit, eventually a Falcons once they get their shit together and Navi, I think we're going to have a different conversation here because, a lot of what we're talking about right now is because they made it to the grand finals. Because they did a rematch against FaZe that it was the last match that they played in the group stage that they choked, and because of that, I think they had the seeding kind of just let it, and Vitality kind of having a weird group stage and not being in a 3-0 bracket, and Mao's coming from the 0 and 2, all these things kind of accumulated and combined to give us the result that we had.
It must be frustrating because since we've been speaking now for a while, I get the impression you are that old school of, like, you keep it all in. As the coach, you kind of take on any of the negativity coming from the crowd, keep everything in the locker room, like Thorin said at the beginning. How frustrating is it as a coach then when you have players doing interviews at events, doing tell-alls before they leave, when you've got management going on podcasts, kind of spewing out all of that stuff. And you as a coach are desperately trying to keep your players in the right mental space to perform and not be affected by all of that noise.
I think it's about being professional. For me, I can tell you that it wasn't easy to keep everything inside, and even though I knew a couple events earlier what will happen inside G2, that I will not be in G2, like I was like, okay, I have 2 ways to deal with it, right? I can just relax and fake that I'm trying to do something, get my paycheck, try and get some wins. Or I can actually try hard. I can try to, change a little bit of my approach, try to, listen to the voices, what's not good, and see if I will improve.